That is actually the mission of Buddhism, to be a benefit to all sentient beings, not just our cool little choir.
Exactly right, and in whatever way is most helpful to them.
I'm here, honored to be here today with Melvin McLeod, Editor-in-Chief of Shambhala Sun and Buddhadharma. And what's your title with Mindful?
I'm the editorial director of Mindful magazine.
Yeah, great. And now lionsroar.com.
That's right, our new website, which is its own vehicle and have its own identity and its own content, and I think it's going to be really great.
So you have a unique view of the unfolding of Buddhism, the continued unfolding in the last 20 years and going back even further.
Next, for better or worse.
Yeah, exactly. So what is, if you had one wish in terms of if you could push it a little this way or that way, how can Buddhism unfold in a healthy way in the West?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, in the end, it's got to be genuine. That's the most important thing. And by genuine, I mean it's actually got to be about enlightenment and about non-ego, and it's always got to be based on the basic Buddhist principle that our suffering is caused by this thing we call ourselves that we believe in so deeply and try to defend all the time in a very painful way. So genuine Dharma is based on seeing through that illusion, which has its own pain of seeing through that illusion that ultimately you don't exist in the way that you think you do.
Yeah.
But I think that, and then ultimately that it become the complete transmission of Buddhism to the West, which developed over 2,700 years to this point, and I think is just in its infancy. So establishing a deep, genuine, and complete Buddhist transmission in the West, I think will be extraordinarily beneficial both to our society and to the world in the end.
So not just a marketed PR kind of shallow, accessible version, which is helpful, but not the whole enchilada.
But I just don't think there's a dichotomy there. I mean, the way we look at it is there's got to be deep, and deep means many people who are serious, deep practitioners looking at profound personal transformation, even something that could be called enlightenment. At the same time,
in-depth study and
retreat, all building the institutions that support that in the West. At the same time, there's the wide part, and the wide part I look at as skillful means, or in effect as Buddhism being successful. And so I don't look at it as any contradiction, or indeed that there's any problem with what could be called popularization. In a way, it's as long as it's done with that integrity in the end of a genuine commitment to the fundamental truths, really what it is simply finding the best way to offer people help where they are.
Right. I mean, we were saying that is actually the mission of Buddhism, to be a benefit to all sentient beings, not just our cool little choir.
Exactly right, and in whatever way is most helpful to them. The Buddha said they're infinite sentient beings, they're infinite neuroses and problems, and we should be able to offer infinite means to help people to address those problems. So there's no set techniques or truths.
Yeah, that's a very Buddhist answer. Yeah,
that's good.
It's not solid.
No.
And on the spectrum, you mentioned suffering. I mean, there is a beauty to sadness or to loneliness. We're not just trying to reject that and be happy all the time, right?
Well, that's right, because most of what we call happiness, you could say, is a form of denial of our deepest nature. In a way, we define happiness as absence of pain or suffering. So I'm going to watch TV, and I'm going to have something tasty to eat, or I'm going to have sex. But, if we look at our hearts, my teacher, and yours, I think, Chogyam Trungpa, described the human heart as sad and tender. I think we have, as human beings, inherently broken hearts because we love so much, and because the world is difficult, and because there's death and loss. And so to deny that sadness or deny those realities is to deny the nature of our hearts. So when I feel loss or loneliness, as I am at this very moment, because a close family member is gone off to go to college.
Yeah.
and that causes me sadness and suffering and loneliness. But what I try to find in there is, well, that's also love at the same time.
And when you don't fight it, ironically, you can, as Pema talks about a lot, you can make friends, Maitri, make friends with your own tender, broken heart, right?
Yeah,
it's less painful in a way, or less, there's less, you can be in gear with it.
There's depth and reality to it. It's like Trungpa Rinpoche talked about. There's a certain romance to sad and tender heart. Yeah. He described it once as like somebody playing a flute off in the distance in the forest. You're lonely, but there's a beautiful, slightly sad song coming from off in the distance. Wow. That's what the human heart's really about. So, in a way, the pursuit of happiness at its superficial level is an attempt to deny that reality of what the human heart really is.
Well, thank you, Melvin. And I hope your daughter sends you lots of flute YouTube videos.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Melvin McLeod. You've been a great support over the years, too. I'll mention to myself.
I'm happy to.
God knows I needed it. All right.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Subscribe.